been a while since the last time I reviewed a movie on the channel. Wonder why that is. How would you define the word patriotic? Noble, brave, loyal to one's country or cause? Well, if you were to ask filmmaker and director Ross Patterson about 13 years back what his definition of patriotism was, he probably would have told you it's a bit of dated and sensitive humor and completely unnecessary blatant nudity, all in the form of a low-budget action spoof. Chances are you've never heard of 2012's FDR American Badass, let alone actually seen the whole film, and for good reason. With a 5.2 rating on IMDb and the title of one of the weirdest films streaming on Netflix in 2013, this film wasn't generating a lot of press in the first place, let alone any sort of positive press. I was sort of adjacently exposed to this movie by my friend Lauren, who had accidentally discovered another movie a few years back, Helen Keller vs. Night Wolves, which was produced by the same studio, Street Justice Films. I reviewed that movie on my main channel, so make sure you go check out that video when you're done with this one, but after watching that one, I eventually went down the rabbit hole of what other films Street Justice had made. And that's when I found FDR American Badass. And since it's the 4th of July, what's a better way to celebrate our independence before Congress votes it away and burns our country to the ground? So, buckle your seatbelts and prepare to have your socks knocked off, because I watched the most patriotic movie ever, so you don't have to. Hey, hi. Quick note from Editor Dalton here. A lot of the footage you're going to look at tonight is black and white, and it's got some film grain over it. And that's not obviously how the actual movie looks, but in an effort to not get dinged by YouTube's amazing, beautiful, I love it so much copyright detection system, I'm going to be modifying it a little bit. Even though it is transformative and we're talking about it in a transformative manner, we all know how YouTube is. So please enjoy. FDR American Badass starts off as many movies do, with an opening monologue from our main character.
This man was a true American badass. I know, because I am him.
Franklin Delano Roosevelt himself opens us up to the world and sets the spoofy comedic tone the movie will carry on from here on out. While it's corny as all hell, that's definitely the point, and it's at least a sort of creative way to start off the movie, so I'm gonna give it a pass. Anyways, we cut to Frank and his friends chilling out in the woods, cracking wise as it were. Out of nowhere, however, a werewolf attacks. Several of his friends succumb to the fangs, and Frank is ultimately the one to end the wolf's life. But not before the wolf bites his legs and gives him polio. No, I am not making that up. A few days later, Frank wakes up in a hospital with a dismal piece of news. The polio has spread, and he'll never walk again.
You've got the polio, Frank. Does my cack still work?
Also, his polio-ridden legs now look like fleshy, ugly baby legs, so that's perfectly uncomfortable.
It's your legs.
There is a bright side to this, though, if you can call it that. In recognition of Frank's bravery, civilians from all over have gathered outside the hospital, cheering him on and begging him to run for President of the United States. Frank is uncertain, however, and we actually get a nice character moment. He struggles with this tense inner conflict of how he's going to live with his disability and how he can possibly lead a nation that way. And it's a great meta-commentary in comparison to our current American society. So many people get put down for their physical appearance and abilities. I'm just kidding. He makes fun of a disabled kid.
Okay, Governor.
Oh, Jesus, is polio gonna make me stutter too?
And that gives him the strength to get out there, give a speech, and announce his campaign for president. This scene is also where I notice a really distinct problem across this entire film. The cinematography of FDR American Badass is really boring. Now, I'll certainly take this over the constant earthquake shake cam of Helen Keller vs. Night Wolves, where normal shots of characters walking and talking all have a tremble to them, but every single shot in FDR just feels so static, like they didn't even want to try to move around or add any depth to each scene. In most cases, the cinematography in this movie looks unprofessional, drowsy, and cheap.
Mr. Roosevelt, there's someone out here that would like to see you.
Unless it's your identical twin, not right now.
It's a 10-year-old boy.
Anyways, no time to dwell on that. Let's get back to the actual plot, because just like that, the Roosevelt campaign for president is underway. But it's not all sunshine and rainbows. For one thing, an autopsy has begun on the wolf that attacked Frank and his friends, which reveals the werewolf came from Germany. And I think you know where this is going. If we can just put a quick pause on things for a moment here. Why is it always werewolves? That might seem a little weird, but this is the second Street Justice Films film that I've watched, and they have scarily identical plots involving werewolves. The main character is a historical figure with a disability. The villains are a set of wolf-like creatures. The main character earns their famous disability after losing a fight with the wolf-like creatures. This German werewolf isn't the only problem though, because Frank is now experiencing troubles with his marriage. I wish I was making that up. Back home, Frank's wife Eleanor doesn't want to sleep with him due to his weird sausage legs. Now normally this is something I've criticized because I think it's kind of ableist, and also you're just supposed to support your partner through thick and thin, but after seeing a look at Frank's baby legs once again...
Oh, Frank, you've got to stop doing that.
I really just think Eleanor is trying to not end up on a list. So I think she's validated here.
It's about the dead werewolf.
Stuff it, hang it over the mantel, put it in the kids' room.
No time to fix this marriage though. Frank's got a campaign to run. Frank and his assistant Lewis go state to state, spreading the good word of the Roosevelt administration. And all things considered, this is a pretty inoffensive scene given how many offensive jokes are in each cut. But I actually have to take a second and praise some of the post-production on this scene, especially given the budget this film probably worked with. Now, it's nothing crazy. We've seen this countless times in Raiders of the Lost Ark, but after seeing Helen Keller's P&G hands in the last movie I watched from Street Justice Films...
My bad. Here, you can feel this.
This is a pretty nice step up. Along the campaign trail, Frank and Lewis end up in one of those southern hick states where they meet Cleavon and Marietta, a couple who swings and make toilet moonshine, and that's really about all you need to know about them. They're characters, to say the least, and this is where I'd like to talk about some of the performances in the movie.
It'll be a nice time.
Excuse me?
My cousin wife.
Now, don't queue up FDR with the expectations of Ledger-level performances, because none of these performances are really award-worthy. But a few moments here and there really shine out to me, and it feels like some of the actors actually give a crap about the piece of crap they're starring in. It's also worth noting that there are a handful of actual credited actors in this movie who have done other real projects. For instance, FDR actor Barry Bostwick has been in Rocky Horror Picture Show, Weekend at Bernie's 2, and Hannah Montana the Movie. Eleanor actress Lynn Shay has played roles in Nightmare on Elm Street and the Insidious franchise, and General MacArthur's actor Ray Wise is known from RoboCop, Twin Peaks, and Batman the Killing Joke. And while there is good, recognizable talent in here, even the nobodies, as rude as that is to call them that, are still putting in a good effort to make this a solid performance. Most emotional moments of this movie are almost always immediately undercut by some racist or sexist joke, but in those brief moments before they get undercut, you can usually count on there being a good emotional line delivery. Anyways, after Frank and Lewis reluctantly accept an invitation to dinner and to stay with the Hicks, the tripod apparently broke. Yeah, it's all Dutch angles for this scene. Look, there's a time and a place for your composition to get all tilty-wilty, but eating dinner with the rednecks? That's really where we chose to use it in this film? One thing leads to another across the night, and after a homoerotic spring bath, Frank and Lewis head back home with a handful of new voters, as well as a VP candidate in the form of Cleavon. Sure. No time to dwell on that though, because we're taking our first of many time skips in this movie, and this time we're skipping forward to election night. The race is close, until it isn't, and Frank takes the nation by storm, winning the presidency. Obviously, the Roosevelt family is pretty jazzed about this, and they celebrate in ways that I cannot show or explain on YouTube. I think what I'm gonna do is we're gonna do a before and after. So here's the before, and here's the after.
What is wrong with you people?
Now, in the comments section, I want you to guess what happened in between those two shots, and then you can go watch the movie and see if you're right. Frank and the Roosevelts are off to Washington, but not before we check in with a friendly little nation named Germany. Hitler is a wolf now, as is Mussolini, as is Hirohito, and boy did they max out their stereotype points on the skill tree. With Prohibition still enacted by the United States, Mussolini comes up with a plan to infiltrate the free world by infusing Italian wine with wolf blood and smuggling it across the border. This will... Shit, I don't remember what that was supposed to do. As intel comes into the States of Italy's next move, Frank takes a bold approach from the Oval Office. Apparently, he's got a microphone that he can use to just speak to the entire American public. So he hops on the radio and he tells everyone that Prohibition is lifted. Everyone can get as drunk and boozy as they like. And after a little more casual sexism from Frank,
I think this is inappropriate.
Grown men conversing, seen not heard, Eleanor. George!
it's off to the FBI.
Oh, way to go, Einstein. Our scientist, Albert Einstein, a real jackass.
Frank's gonna need some firepower if he's gonna take on these werewolves, and he's got just the man to help him, General Douglas MacArthur. Dougie Mack has designed a fancy high-tech wheelchair for Frank, fitted with machine guns and rocket launchers, yet no cup holder. You heard it here first, folks. FDR is not allowed to drink and drive. Off in Baltimore, the invasion begins. Italian werewolves unload crate after crate of infested wine, ready to distribute it across the nation. But not if FDR has something to say about it. Frank guns them down with ludicrous speeds, and the Axis powers are furiously back to the drawing board. In the blink of an eye, war is underway. A few more years go by, and the Roosevelt administration is still monitoring the war. Clungus and what's-her-name show up at the White House, alongside Winston Churchill, who comes bearing possibly one of the worst impressions of an English accent I've ever heard.
You guys are drinking. And during a time like this, Jesus.
With Europe slowly falling to conquership, Frank sends a maid to assist from across the pond, but in no time at all, Churchill is in over his head. Frank doesn't join the war yet, though, because he's too busy cheating on his wife. Yep, in the most disturbing scene that will make me rethink my relationships with ketchup and mustard for the rest of my life, this begins the weird marriage issues arc of the film. Eleanor walks in on Frank cheating on him. She's obviously upset. She slaps the girl, and she walks out. For as big of a deal as this movie makes this whole argument, though, it doesn't really amount to anything. Frank and Eleanor have a heated conversation about it. Frank flashes his widow wags at Eleanor. And then they just move on. They don't get divorced. They don't really talk it out or find a middle ground. The movie just kind of forgets that the argument ever even happened. Anyways, once again, no time for marriage issues. It's time for Frank to meet two more pivotal characters in American history. Dwight Eisenhower and Abraham Lincoln. One of these things is not like the other. Eisenhower's role in this is pretty expected because, well, he was in World War II. But Lincoln's inclusion is obviously a bit more baffling, to say the least. The night before Frank goes off to war, he finds a patriotic box of doobies in his desk drawer in the Oval Office, which accidentally manifests the portrait of Abraham Lincoln to life. And they spend the night talking about Obama and girls and the war in a cutesy way, but they swear it's not gay.
Is there gonna be a statue like that of me?
No, but they're gonna name like 1,000 high schools after you. That's cool.
Anyways, Frank wakes up at his desk in a cold sweat, and it's time to go to war. He gives a speech to his men before climbing into his jet and flying to the front lines. You all went to history class. You know Normandy was hell. You don't know just how hellish it was, though. Werewolves, left and right, clawing out the hearts of American soldiers. Hitler and Mussolini are there too, apparently. And they shoot down Frank's plane. Frank inches himself closer and closer to the wheelchair at the back of the jet. And just when it seems like all hope is lost, just when it seems like Frank isn't going to make it to his chair,
I got your back, Frank.
Frank and VP Alabama hop out of the jet, and the latter plummets as he realizes he didn't take a parachute with him. As Frank plunges down towards the beach in his chair, he opens fire on the Axis powers in what will surely be an amazing, climactic showdown. Yeah, it just cuts to black. We never see it. It just fades into black. Over 2 weeks later, there's still no word about Frank's whereabouts. Just as Lewis and Eleanor presume him dead, however, there he is, rolling in and objectifying his wife just as though nothing had ever changed. And that's just about it. But of course, we wouldn't be doing the movie justice if Frank didn't hop on the mic and spit some hot bars one more time.
Me to reintroduce myself.
It's Franklin Delano Roosevelt, motherfucker!
While I would put FDR American Badass in the category of funny bad alongside Revenge of the Sith and Spider-Man 3, I don't think it has the same staying power. More often than not, the film relies on over-the-top vulgarity and edgy jokes that were probably dated even by 2012 standards, but it feels like Street Justice films really prioritize quantity of jokes over quality with FDR. Regardless, the movie is still an entertaining watch and group of degenerates over Discord, so if you've got a few friends that need a carnal piece of entertainment, you might just find this film stupid enough to enjoy. Thanks for watching. If you like this video, maybe we'll do it again sometime, assuming I don't get dick fucked by copyright notices. And yeah, happy 4th.